Hi, I'm Judy Stakee. Today I wanted to talk to you about releasing songs. And so I brought in an expert, Milo, who has accomplished the following. He released 6 new songs just last year alone, toured through US and Europe doing 100 plus shows, was commissioned to write a Starbucks holiday commercial. Your first release of 2020 is on 11 different New Music Fridays on Spotify. Mm-hmm. You've had hundreds of thousands of streams on Russia's streaming site VK, top billing on Tidal's Pop Rising playlist, and you were invited to 2020 South by Southwest's writing camp and performing at the festival. So you have a little problem with procrastination, again, right?
Yeah, I really need to get it together.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Where's my motivation? Well, let's just jump right in here.
Let's do it.
How do you know when your song is ready to be released, to be put out?
That is a good question. For me, for me, a lot of it, specifically with the songwriting and the songcraft, is just, do I feel really, really good about the top line? And then there's a couple of things that you just want to have together. So you want to make sure that you have a mastered recording of your song. You want to make sure that you have the album art together for your release. And you want to make sure that you have about 8 weeks ahead of time to prepare everything.
Great. I think you just answered like 5 of my other questions.
Good.
So you say it's a gut feeling,
Yeah.
and you know when it's ready to be put out. Do you have a team? Do you use other people to bounce things off of?
Yeah. I mean, I have my managers listen to things, and there was a time when I was a younger artist when I would send things to you or send things to people who I trusted and ask like, oh, what do you guys think of this song? And based on the reaction, kind of gauge whether or not it was excellent or good or bad. But for the most part, where I'm at right now, because I've released so much and because I've worked for so many years, I kind of know what I want out of my art, and I just trust my gut. I know when I love a song, and that's kind of the benchmark for me of when I'm going to release something.
Do you think that comes from just doing it and from the years of experience that you've put into it, or is there some other secret sauce there?
I mean, I think every artist is different, but for me, it's come from years of doing it. I've been releasing music for a long time, and now I'm finally at a place where I feel very, very comfortable with every release and what I choose to release.
As opposed to the first time you ever did it.
Yes, which I look back on and regret.
No regrets, no regrets. You actually asked this, but how many weeks do you need before releasing a song?
I would go with pretty standard is 8 weeks before you're going to want to know what your release date is.
And how did you come up with that?
It's just like pretty standard fare if you're like reading on any sort of music industry, independent artist blogs are going to suggest 8 weeks.
Okay.
Most distribution sites, TuneCore, CD Baby, where you would upload your music in order to get your music onto streaming platforms, I'm pretty sure they demand about 4 to 8 weeks ahead of time in order to be able to upload to things like Spotify, Apple, all those things.
And obviously suggests that, to check out each one of those sites before you do it, so you know what the weeks are. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. What do you do during those weeks to prepare, those 8 weeks?
Yeah, so it really just depends on the artist and what they want to accomplish. For me, a lot of what I do is I have like a press document. So I've taken down all of my artist friends. I've taken down like what blogs or magazines have covered their work, and I have a detailed list of who the writers are who covered their work in that spreadsheet. I'll come up with a press release for the song, and I will email those people between 4 to 8 weeks ahead of time so that I can try and get some press coverage in that time. So I usually do that between 4 and 8 weeks ahead of time. Okay. And then about 10 days before the actual release, I'll email my mailing list and let them know that a new song is coming out, and I will set up a Spotify pre-save. So I use Smart URL. There's a lot of ways to get people to pre-save or pre-buy your song, and you do that in order to have engagement on the song on the day of release. And also it helps you collect more email addresses for your mailing list. So that'll be 10 days before I'll email out to my mailing list, and I will give them a URL link to pre-save my song. And then I will also on 7 to 10 days before, announce on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter that I have a release coming up. And just keep reminding them throughout those days that things are happening.
Do you do anything else besides letting them know, or let me rephrase this. When you're letting them know the release date, when you're saying pre-buy this and all that, is that all you're giving them, or do you give them a story? Do you give them blogs? Do you give them any other kind of content?
Yeah, I don't really send my fans to blogs because I can just like give them the story directly. Mm-hmm. I mean, sometimes if it's a bigger blog, I always tweet it out, but on my newsletter specifically, I try and really be personal with my fans and give them
So you have a
an
newsletter
actual story.
in addition?
Yeah, the newsletter is in addition to the blog, and that's where I'll be like, this is to kind of go in more depth about the song.
That's what I was asking, yeah.
Who I wrote it with, why I wrote it, what inspired me, how it was accomplished. Mm-hmm. Just because people who are signed up for your mailing list are people who want to know those things, who want to know more and engage with you beyond just like, here's a photo of me on Instagram where I look hot.
Well, you have a few of those. How specifically do you promote your songs to get traffic on the day of release? And do you have any strategies you use that you can share with any independent artists out there?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I already talked about the Spotify pre-save. That's a really good way to have engagement because Spotify takes into account how many times your song is saved. So that's one thing. After you've uploaded your song to a distribution site, it will arrive on the Spotify platform. And Spotify, as opposed to some of the other streaming sites like Apple or Tidal, has a way for each artist to submit a song to the editorial board. And the people who are working on the editorial side of things on Spotify can get you onto editorial playlists. So those are bigger playlists run by Spotify that can help you rack up streams and introduce you to new audiences. So you want to do a Spotify pre-save. You want to make sure to go onto your artists.spotify.com page and submit your song to the editorial board. And the newsletter is something else that I do. Does that cover?
I think so. It's just so amazing. I hope you're all making a list of all this. What's amazing to me is the steps that an independent artist must go through these days. Yeah. You know, when you were an independent artist years and years ago, it was just getting it to a radio station and that was it, and trying to play a club. But nowadays, I mean, you're your own record club. Company.
Which is great because you have a lot of freedom as an independent artist to make things happen that are similar to what a record label could make happen. Obviously, the scale could be a little different, but you are at least by Spotify. I mean, obviously, record labels have their own way with streaming sites, but as an independent artist, you do have access to some of the same tools that that a major label artist might have. Yeah,
it really goes to show you too that you really have to have a business sense if you're going to do this. There's really no excuse for it, and what you don't know, you learn.
Totally. Yeah.
What is it actually like uploading your songs?
Like
going about the distribution process.
It's pretty easy actually. Yeah. A lot of people use TuneCore or CD Baby. So these are kind of middleman sites that so you, the artist, upload a song to a CD Baby or a TuneCore, and they will upload your songs to streaming platforms. So Apple Music, Tidal, Spotify. There's something called Deezer. There's a bunch that we don't use. The one earlier, it's called VK. It's like a Russian site. So my distribution site collects money from them. And what they're going to do is collect your money from your Spotify streams and deposit them into your bank account.
It's no different if you're, selling wine and your wine, your distributor goes out and sells it to Costco and to liquor stores and all that and collects it all for you.
Yeah, totally. Pandora's separate, by the way. So for the most part, your distribution sites are not going to upload to Pandora, and you're going to need to go on the Pandora site to
Why is
upload. That? I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know.
We'll have to figure that one out.
It's quite annoying.
Well...
Yeah, but the actual uploading process is very easy. So again, you're going to want to make sure that you have your master recording. You're going to want to make sure that you have your album art with the proper dimensions and your planned release date. And the forms on each of the websites are very easy to figure out.
Yeah, I've actually seen those. I agree with you. Now, besides all that, though, there's some other things you have to put in place before putting a song out.
Sure.
Which would be registering with a PRO. Mm-hmm. I'm going to actually answer this for you. You have to copyright it.
Yeah.
And, of course, the art and all that stuff that you mentioned. But you really need to make sure that your song is registered with a PRO and that you've copywritten it. And all the splits are correct, and all the names, and all
you do want it. That's money that you're not earning if you don't register the song.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, if you're a songwriter, you want to make sure if you have an independent artist releasing your songs, you want to make sure that they are registering the songs with the PRO or do it yourself. Sometimes if you have an artist on ASCAP that uploads your song and you're a BMI writer, that might not show up, so you still need to register your song.
Double check.
Yeah.
Double check everything. Make
you
sure
want
it's
that
registered.
cash, baby.
What are some of the things you do to promote your songs?
I mean, just through the newsletter and through Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Touring's been a big way for me to promote the songs. So I do a lot of work with So Far Sounds, which is this sort of secret concert organization. So they'll set up a concert, they'll have a built-in audience, and that's been a big way for me to promote my music, because I'll be able to perform 4 or 5 songs in front of a crowd of between 50 and 150 people.
Well, it's interesting because I'd love for you to tell the story of the Starbucks commercial, because that's really how it happened.
Yeah. So I was doing a show for So Far Sounds in Los Angeles, and I was really sick, and so no
one showed up. Like, I couldn't come.
Yeah.
Like, none of
my friends didn't show up, but because it's So Far, and I usually don't invite friends to So Far Sounds or fans, because I want them to come to a show where it's ticketed and I'm receiving the money. So that's important to me as well. Because So Far Sounds has a guarantee. So no matter who comes from my fans, I get the same amount of cash.
That's great.
So I was playing at So Far Sounds. I played 4 or 5 songs. There were about 50, 60 people in the audience. This was in Los Angeles. And someone who was there actually got 2 great opportunities out of this particular show. One person who was there was from Pandora. So I came and I played a set for Pandora. And then someone else worked at an advertising agency called 72 and Sunny. And that person connected me with Starbucks, who ultimately commissioned me to write a holiday campaign for them, which is really great.
You never know who's in the audience,
Yeah, so playing live is really great. Some artists get really big on the internet, which is amazing, but playing live is a great way to get your music out there and also to cut your teeth as a performer, because there's so many skills that people don't have, talking in between songs, knowing how to arrange a set list, how to enter, how to exit. So these are all great things that you can learn as an artist.
And you find out what songs work too.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah, some people suck.
Absolutely.
Some people, they just have a poor idea of which songs work because they don't play live.
Right.
So if you're trying to choose as an artist which songs to release, playing live is a great way to feel out whether or not those songs are actually up to snuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree. You recently got put on 11 different music playlists on Spotify. How did you pull that off?
I think just with the tools that I've kind of stated earlier on the Spotify artist.spotify.com, that part, once you claim your artist profile, you can submit your songs.
Right.
And if the editorial board likes it, then...
Well, and I think that the answer also is that you have a great song.
Thanks.
Yeah. I mean, that helps. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
So.
The other thing is, Spotify is more likely to include you in an editorial playlist if your song is attached to a project. So the song that I released is attached to an EP. They're more interested in those types of projects. I also released it on a day that isn't typically inundated with releases. So thinking about like the first Friday of January is typically not seeing a lot of releases. Or if you're releasing like the week of Christmas, you might not see a lot of releases. So those 2 weeks could be good if you have great songs, you're attached to a project, and you use that tool. Yeah.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
You've been quite creative on a low budget for your album covers.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for creating album covers like you have? How'd you come up with it?
Well, so
trade secrets.
I think as an artist, you want to keep your branding unified on those first couple releases.
Absolutely.
So that you can tell your audience what kind of artist you're going to be. My first set of releases, I had like a relatively expensive photo shoot, and I used all of the photos from that for 5 releases. For this one, I was just like, I don't want to pay, and I was also touring a lot at the time, so I didn't have time to kind of hire a photographer. So what I did is I just used my iPhone and I took selfies. I uploaded them through a Polaroid app, and then I hired one of my friends, Dia, who also works with you, to help me with the font and to get the dimensions correct and to make sure that it was able to be properly uploaded. Right. Yeah, so balling on a budget, you can use your iPhone if that's like the kind of artist you are.
I think that's great though, and I think that like for each time to like really, go in with the intention of like, well, I have a little money, I can actually go and
sure
spend a little money, and I don't. So you know what? They're gonna be iPhones. It's like these days I mean, it matters, but like you said, it's the consistency and the branding that's the same.
Yeah, we're all kind of trained to think that a consistent image or set of images is pleasurable to us. So if you can keep a certain consistency, it is going to be compelling to the audience. I have people who hit me up and they're like, your branding's so consistent. And I'm like, balling on a budget. But people love it.
That's great. That's good. Do you have any other tips today for a successful release?
Ooh, make sure that you follow up after your release with your fans, like a week or two.
Great advice. Really great
it's not just about the release day. It's also about the weeks that come after that. Playing live is a great strategy to have if you're releasing, just so that you can get out into new audiences.
Well, touring's been great for you because it's just allowed you. It's allowed you money too. It's allowed you income.
Yeah, it's allowed me to pay my bills and also to put money back into what I'm doing. So yeah,
which is which I would like all the audience to understand is that you have to keep putting money back into you and to your projects and all of that.
Yeah. And having a budget that you plan also. Like if you can put more money towards the production, the mixing, the mastering, that's always great.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's it. I think that was it for today. You were a great guest. I so appreciate you taking the time and.
Of course, I hope that was helpful for your audience.
Very helpful. It was better than me because I have not released anything. So that's why I bring guests in. So. Thanks so much for tuning in for today. For more songwriting tips and tricks, you can visit me, Judy Stakee, on all my social media platforms. And if you'd like to work together and come to one of my retreats or work more on a one-to-one consultation way, then you can visit me, judystakee.com. Keep writing, practice, and have a great day. Bye.
See ya.